That this is also the inyan that Avraham Avinu was blessed, bakel with everything. And as it's mentioned, Sheishlite, that the Eibishter gave him control of his inclination, evil inclination, Shazeu Shvach Achar Shvach de Baba Yomim. That this is basically this sequence in the verse. That first it says Vashem Berachas Avraham Bakel, that the Eibishter, first it says Baba Yomim, that he came in his days, which means that he had the days of the positive commandments. The Baba Yomim Heina Mitzvah Sesa. They are the positive commandments. That what does it mean, Baba Yomim, that his days were full days? He didn't miss one day. All the days were complete days. Which every day is a garment. He accomplishes garments for his soul. So it's negeya, not only it's important and necessary, not only that he should do the work, but that every day he should do the work, because every day is a separate time zone, and every day accomplishes more garments for the soul. So he accomplished his Aveda Belima Datera and Kiyama Mitzvahs. They call Yema V'Yema Oved Avidet, that every day he did his Aveda. And what does it mean? Hashem Berachas Avraham Bakel, that the Eibishter blessed him with everything. Sheishlite beyitzre. Sheishlite beyitzre means that he took in control. He took in control the Yetzer Hara, that he did it. Shavu kemei mailas mitzvahs leisas al mitzvahs esa. That he took in control that the mitzvahs. He took in control the mitzvahs, milas of mitzvah, which means that he took in control the evil inclination. What is that? This is similar. When we compare the union of taking control of his evil inclination in comparison to fulfilling, that his days were full, so it's like fulfilling the negative commandments in comparison to the positive commandments. Positive commandments are done within a certain structure and a certain design, that he has to do it this and this way with all the limitations and the conditions involved in every positive mitzvah. When it comes to mitzvahs leisasa, there's only one tnuah. There is one point, and the point is not to do it. And this is also the difference, in a sense, that a positive mitzvah is involved more with details. In addition to the doing it, which alone is a vessel, and it is a certain limitation, he has to restrict himself to do it this way, not another way. And it has many details that shows on agbolas, on limitations and conditions, restrictions. On the other hand, when it comes to mitzvahs leisa, said there's one thing. He has to just make sure that the switch is off, that he's not doing it. And Mamela, this encompasses everything, because this is a tnuah in the nefesh, which is higher than structure, higher than vessel, higher than it's the inyan of Mesiras Nefesh, the inyan of Bittul.
How do you say that Abraham's days, every day was great when he didn't become aware of Hashem till much later in his life?
Okay, so Chassidus explains, the Rebbe explains it, Bechlal, that he lived 175 years. According to one opinion, by 3 years old he recognized the Creator, according to one opinion. So the Rebbe says that's why it says, Eikev, Asher Shama Avraham Bekeli. Eikev is 172. That of 172 years, he did follow. But the first 3 years was like an inyan of chinuch. It was inyan preparing, so it was like a hechsher mitzvah, preparing. There's another day that says it was by 40 years old. But Bechlal, the remez of Eikev is that most of his years he was connected with the Eibishter, and the introduction before was the inyan of preparing. So therefore, Baba Yom means that every day, and this is basically what the Rebbe brings in the Ayim Yom of the 17th of Cheshvan, which is actually last week. The Rebbe brings it on that day, which is Parsha Chayisora, that a person should know that every day is not only a day, but it's a matter in life. It's not something which is only connected with time, but it's also connected with the person. In the person himself, there's three inyanim. There's time, place, and the person himself. These are the three factors on what the world is established, as it's mentioned in Sefer Yetzirah. Eilam, Shana, Nefesh. Place, time, and person. And that's the Rosh Tevis, Oshan Kulei. That by Har Sinai, V'Har Sinai Oshan, it means that it affected the three factors in the world. These are the three that world consists of, time, place, and person. So therefore we say, the Rebbe is Madgish, not only that it is something which is related to time, that a day is not only time, but it is also part of the person. It's a part of the world, meinach. It's a inyan, the Nazak the Rebbe inyan in Leben, which is connected with the life of person. It all is interlinked together. And therefore, when a person does do mitzvahs, so every day, the mitzvahs of that day become the garments for the neshama. And this is what the neshama gathers. And as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, as we have it before Shavuos time, that these are the channels through which the neshama visualizes godliness in Gan Eden, through the levushei ha-mitzvahs, levushei ha-neshama. So therefore, this is what it says when it gets Avram Avinu. On one hand, we say Hashem Berechas Avram Baba Zokin Baba Yomim, that he was Baba Yomim. He's fulfilled everything that was needed from him. In that every day he fulfilled it with full contents. But these were the positive mitzvahs. Mitzvahs what he needs to do. Then there are mitzvahs that he has to stay away from them by not doing, because there's no vessel. So he's accomplishing, he's drawing down a greater light. And therefore, this is the answer why the source of the negative, so-called negative mitzvahs, are higher than the positive mitzvahs, because the negative mitzvahs, by not doing it, it shows that we can't even make an appropriate vessel for such a revelation. And as it's mentioned in Chassidus, that it's still called a mitzvah, as Chassidus brings the example. The Gemara says, I think, in one of the tractates, could be in Kiddushin, Yoshav v'leyover aveira ki'ilu asa mitzvah. When a person sat and he did not do an Aveda, it's considered like he did a mitzvah. So actually, in a sense, it's considered like he did a mitzvah, but he fulfilled the mitzvah of not doing something wrong. And as the Rebbe explains, the Rebbe Rashab explains in a MaMaar, what does this mean? That there are certain inyanim that how could we refine them? If we're not going to use them for the sake of sacred matters, so we don't have a direct connection with them, they can just be elevated when Mashiach will come, because they are considered Gimel Klipas Atmeis, 3 elements, the most negative elements, and impure. So that's why now we can't accomplish anything in them, and that's why we're not permitted to deal with them. So the Rebbe Rashab says, Afal Pikein, still, there are certain inyanim that we can do with certain animals that although we can't use them, not for sacrifices, not for food, but we can use them at least for other purposes. He says, al derech, like a donkey, using it for a load, for carrying things. So mele, you're using it for a purpose, and therefore you're refining it in a certain sense. Although a chameir is a behemoth tmeya, impure, and it is not something used in the sacrifices, there was no use for it in kedusha, in sacred purposes. But still, it is something that can be used at least by using it for different purposes. Which means not only that he's not using it to eat it, but he's also using it in a positive sense by it doing certain purposes, fulfilling certain errands for the person, and so on and so forth. Now the Rebbe goes into detail. The Protius Yesa Yesh Leimar. The Protius Yesa more in detail. We could say Dinyan Avram Bavram Zakan Baba Yomim Ko Yal Hein Al Mitzvah Sesa Va Mitzvah Leisesa. The says the Rebbe explains that till now we explained that Hashem, that Avram Baba Yomim, that he came in his days, are the positive mitzvahs. And the noch sagt man der from Baba Yomi Vashem Berechas Avram Bakel are the mitzvahs which are the negative mitzvahs that he fulfilled. Mitzvahs that do not need a vessel to draw down the light. Here the Rebbe brings it all and explains it in more in detail in a different format. That Avram Zokim Baba Yomim, that he became elderly and he was full with days, with accomplishments. Every day he had accomplishments. Goes on both groups of mitzvahs, on the positive mitzvahs and on the negative mitzvahs. The Kiyam Avraham as Avinu is called as Ateiru Kol Achale Nitna Kela Mitzvahs Leisasa. Avraham Avinu has fulfilled the whole Torah before it was given, including also the negative mitzvahs. But Avol Kol Zehoyabei from the Libi Cholol Bekir V'Shein LeYetzahara. He was, in a sense, in a way, that his heart was empty. He did not have any evil inclination. Bedugmas Pirush Aleph, according to the first Peter's, the first version, explanation in the verse, being and Vishbati Chaya that there's 2 versions, 2 explanations what it means. One Pirush is that Hashem says that when Mashiach will come, he will remove the wild beasts from the earth. They will be completely nullified. And the second Pirush is, they'll be there, but they will change their nature. The nature Shalei as they won't be mazik.